Smart people get paralyzed by overthinking. Kind people get consumed by guilt they don't deserve. Ambitious people get sabotaged by their own inner critic. And the quiet truth is, nobody taught you how to fight back. They taught you to be positive, to think good thoughts, to journal your feelings. But they never taught you that your mind is a battlefield. Marcus Aurelius understood this 2,000 years ago. He was the most powerful man in Rome, and every single day he had to write down reminders just to stay sane. He watched his own thoughts try to destroy him from the inside. He learned that the mind, left unchecked, becomes your worst enemy. Today, I'm giving you 5 psychological weapons that the Stoics, Renaissance thinkers, and modern psychologists discovered independently. 5 simple ways to crush negativity before it crushes you. But first, lock this into your mind and drop it in the comments. I control my mind. My mind doesn't control me. Now let's start with the first weapon that'll change everything. Principle 1. Mindful observation and labeling. Think about the last time a negative thought spiraled in your mind. Now think about this. Did you stop and name it? Or did you become it? The truth is, most people don't have thoughts. They are their thoughts. They don't observe anxiety. They become anxious. They don't notice anger. They become angry. And that's where you lose. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his Meditations something powerful. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Here's what he meant. Your thoughts aren't facts. They're events happening in your consciousness, like clouds passing through the sky. The sky doesn't become the cloud. You don't have to become the thought. Let me show you what this looks like. You're lying in bed at 2 a.m. A thought hits. I'm going to fail this presentation tomorrow. Most people grab that thought, wrestle with it, argue with it, get consumed by it for the next 2 hours. But here's what actually works. You pause. You say out loud or in your mind, I'm having the thought that I might fail. You see what just happened? You created distance. You turned I am failing into I am observing a prediction my brain is making. That's the difference between drowning and watching the wave pass. This happens because your brain evolved to catastrophize. When you were a caveman, the cost of missing a threat was death. The cost of seeing a threat that wasn't there, just wasted energy. So your brain learned to see danger everywhere, to predict the worst, to keep you scanning for disaster. When you label the thought, when you say, that's anxiety talking, or that's my inner critic, you activate your prefrontal cortex. You shift from emotional reaction to conscious observation. And when you observe something, you're no longer trapped inside it. Here's what you do instead. The moment a negative thought appears, name it. Out loud if you can. There's the catastrophizing thought. There's the shame spiral starting. There's my brain trying to protect me by making me feel like garbage. Then ask yourself, is this thought useful right now? Is it helping me or hurting me? But here's where it gets worse. Principle 2. Cognitive reframing and fact-checking. Because naming your thoughts isn't enough when those thoughts are built on lies. Your mind doesn't just think negative thoughts, it manufactures evidence to support them. It finds patterns that don't exist. It takes one failure and turns it into a prophecy about your entire future. The Stoics called this impressions versus reality. Epictetus taught that we're not disturbed by things, but by the views we take of them. Hobbes took this further in Leviathan. He understood that the mind creates narratives to make sense of chaos. And here's the brutal truth. Your mind would rather have a coherent story about why you're doomed than live with uncertainty. Think about it this way. You send a text, no response for 2 hours. Your mind immediately writes a story. They're mad at me. I said something wrong. They hate me. I'm going to be alone forever. None of that is evidence. That's your mind filling in blanks with the worst possible explanation, because certainty, even negative certainty, feels safer than not knowing. Here's what you do. When a negative thought appears, become a detective. Ask, what's the actual evidence for this? Not feelings, not assumptions, actual, observable facts. I'm a failure becomes, I failed at this one task today. Nobody likes me becomes, 3 people didn't respond to my texts, and I have no idea why. I'll never succeed becomes, this attempt didn't work, and I haven't tried other approaches yet. You're not lying to yourself. You're not pretending everything is fine. You're demanding that your thoughts bring receipts before they get to run your life. Montesquieu understood this when he designed systems with checks and balances. Your mind needs the same thing. One part generates thoughts, another part fact-checks them. And you, the conscious you, decide which thoughts get power. Drop this affirmation in the comments. I demand evidence, not emotion. But even when you name your thoughts and fact-check them, there's something your brain is still doing that keeps you trapped. Before we continue, if you're still here, you're not just consuming content. You're actually trying to take control of your mind. That's rare. That's the difference between people who stay stuck and people who break through. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. What's coming next will give you tools most people never learn in their entire lives. Now, back to the third weapon that changes everything. Principle 3. Active gratitude and positive visualization. You've been taught that gratitude means listing things you're thankful for before bed. But Marcus Aurelius and the Stoics discovered something completely different. And it's the opposite of what the self-help industry sells you. They practiced negative visualization. Marcus would imagine losing everything: his power, his responsibilities, his health. Not to encourage morbid thinking, but to create perspective and appreciation for what he had. Here's what most people miss about gratitude. Your brain adapts to everything. That promotion you wanted, 2 weeks later, it's normal. That relationship that seemed perfect, 6 months later, you're focusing on the flaws. Your brain's negativity bias means it stops seeing the good and starts hunting for problems. But when you visualize losing what you have, when you actually spend 60 seconds imagining life without your health, your freedom, your people, then you return to reality, and suddenly you're grateful. Not fake grateful, actually grateful. Let me be crystal clear about something. This isn't toxic positivity. This isn't pretending everything is amazing when it's not. This is using your mind's own mechanisms against its negativity bias. Rousseau wrote about the perfectibility of man, how we're constantly comparing what we have to what we could have, and it makes us miserable. He saw that in the social contract. People were never satisfied because they were always looking up, never looking at what they'd already built. Here's what you do. Every morning, take 60 seconds. Close your eyes. Imagine losing 3 things you have right now. Your job, your mobility, your closest relationship. Really imagine it. Feel that loss. Then open your eyes and realize you still have them. Today, right now. Your brain, which was looking for what's wrong, suddenly sees what's right. Not because you forced positivity, but because you shocked it with perspective. But wait, there's something even more dangerous that most people never address. Principle 4. Physical intervention and environmental shifts. Everything I just told you about mental techniques, it's only half true. Because your mind isn't separate from your body. And Hobbes understood this in Leviathan, when he wrote that passions arise from the motion of the body. You can't think your way out of a state that your body is creating. When your shoulders are tense, your breathing is shallow. You've been sitting in the same dark room for 6 hours staring at screens. Your mind doesn't have a chance. The body creates the mind's prison before the mind even knows it's trapped. Here's the truth that changes everything. Your nervous system doesn't speak English. It doesn't respond to affirmations or logic or positive thoughts when it's in survival mode. It responds to movement, to breath, to changing your physical environment. Think about this. You're spiraling in negative thoughts, trying to meditate your way out, trying to think positive, trying to logic yourself into feeling better. And it's not working. Because your body is screaming threat louder than your mind can whisper, calm down. Max Weber understood modern bureaucracy and systems, but the ancient philosophers understood something deeper. You are a system. Mind and body aren't separate. They're one machine, and you have to work with the whole system. Here's what actually works. When negativity hits, you move immediately. Stand up. Do 20 jumping jacks. Walk outside for 60 seconds. Splash cold water on your face. Change your physical state first. Then, and only then, use the mental tools. Your breath is your reset button. 4 seconds in, 7 seconds hold, 8 seconds out. Do that 3 times and watch your nervous system shift from fight or flight to rest and digest. And here's the part nobody talks about. Your environment is programming your thoughts. That cluttered room, those notifications buzzing constantly, that darkness or harsh lighting, they're all inputs creating your mental state. Machiavelli wrote in The Prince that a leader must understand the terrain before choosing strategy. Your physical environment is your terrain. If it's working against you, no amount of mental discipline will save you. Repeat after me. I change my body to change my mind. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. There's one final truth that ties everything together. Principle 5. Radical self-compassion and acceptance. Here's what actually works. Here's why. You've learned to observe your thoughts, to fact-check them, to shock your brain with perspective, to move your body first. But there's one thing that makes all of this impossible if you don't get it right. You have to stop being at war with yourself. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "When you arise in the morning, think of what a precious privilege it is to be alive." But here's what he understood that most people miss. He wasn't talking about gratitude for external things. He was talking about accepting that you're human, you're flawed, you're going to have negative thoughts, and that's okay. The Stoics weren't about eliminating negative emotions. They were about not being controlled by them. There's a massive difference. Most people treat their mind like an enemy that needs to be defeated. Every negative thought becomes evidence that they're broken. Every moment of anxiety becomes proof they're doing it wrong. And that internal war, that's what actually creates the suffering. Rousseau understood this in The Social Contract. He wrote about amour de soi, natural self-love, versus amour propre, comparative self-love built on what others think. When you're constantly judging yourself, comparing yourself, you're trapped in amour-propre. You can't be at peace. Here's what I mean. You have a negative thought. Instead of saying, "Why am I so weak? Why can't I control my mind?" which just adds another layer of negativity, you say, "My brain is doing what brains do. It's trying to protect me. Thank you, brain. I've got this." You become the compassionate observer of your own mind, instead of its harshest judge. This is where Hobbes, Machiavelli, and the Stoics all converge. Hobbes said, life in the state of nature is solitary, poor, nasty, brutish, and short, without proper structure. Machiavelli said, a prince must know both the lion and the fox, strength and cunning. Marcus Aurelius said, you must be like a rock in the ocean, letting waves crash without being moved. What they all understood, you need structure, you need strategy. You need acceptance of reality as it is, not as you wish it were. When you observe your thoughts without judgment, fact-check them without shame, reframe with perspective, move your body, and treat yourself with compassion, you're not fighting your mind, you're training it. Synthesis, the complete transformation. You came here with a mind that felt like your enemy, thoughts that wouldn't stop, negativity that seemed impossible to escape. You learned that thoughts are events, not facts. That your mind manufactures evidence for its predictions. That gratitude comes from perspective, not pretending. That your body creates your mental state. And that compassion, not criticism, is what actually changes you. Now you see the truth. This isn't just knowledge. This is armor. This is the difference between being controlled by your mind and controlling your mind. You're not the same person who started listening 8 minutes ago. You have weapons now. Use them. If this shifted something in you, if you felt that click of recognition, this isn't meant to stay hidden. Share this with someone who's stuck in their own head right now. Hit that like button if it resonated. Subscribe because you need to understand how power, strategy, and psychology actually work in the real world. This knowledge doesn't just change you. Every person who learns this becomes harder to manipulate, harder to break, and harder to keep down. You're not here by accident. Remember, your mind is your kingdom or your prison. The Stoics knew it. Machiavelli knew it. Every philosopher who understood human nature knew it. The question isn't whether negative thoughts will come. They will. The question is whether you'll be their victim or their observer. Choose observer. Choose strategy. Choose power. Stay sharp, stay sovereign, and stay in control of the only territory that truly matters, the space between your ears.